What's up everybody, Maran here for another weekly update. There's lots of exciting news to go over here this week. I'm fresh back from the Chicago Auto Show, just happening yesterday. And so I did already cover the Toyota Grand Highlander and the Subaru Crosstrek, which are probably the two biggest debuts here this week. They're the all new generations, all new vehicles. So definitely check out those videos. They will also be in this playlist. They will autoplay after this if you want to watch this all the way through and then check those out after. But getting into the other new news here this week, we have stuff about a refreshed Volkswagen Atlas. We also have a refresh for the BMW X5 and a bunch of other very interesting rumors and speculation things to cover as well. So stay tuned for all that. But first off, Volkswagen has debuted here the second refresh for the Atlas and the Atlas Cross Sport at the Chicago Auto Show this week. And so as you can probably tell, it's still based on the same Atlas that originally went on sale back in 2017. It gets a thorough rework here though for the front end with new headlights, and it also includes a light bar and a light up Volkswagen emblem both on the front and on the back. But there's also a new grille and bumper as well. But out back they basically just get new taillights, which now run the full width there, and that's about it. It's important to note though that the front and rear full width lights are standard on everything except the base model. The wheels are also new, and inside it gets more substantial changes with a whole new dashboard here. The door panels are new, and there's some new features here as well. And while it's nice that it now has a 12-inch touchscreen, unfortunately that means it also has the infotainment software that's been disliked by many, and that removes basically all of the physical controls for imprecise haptic feedback instead, for the buttons and sliders and stuff. And also it appears like they're not illuminated still, even though Volkswagen has said that future models will get illuminated controls. And Volkswagen in the past few months also vowed to bring back buttons, but that decision clearly must have been made after the refresh here for the Atlas was finalized, unfortunately. But Volkswagen does say that software updates are coming to improve the screen experience, but we'll see how this affects Atlas sales. And it does have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto at least, so that's an improvement. And there's also a new 10.25-inch digital gauge cluster that's standard now as well. Other impressive standard features are a standard heated steering wheel and standard ventilated seats, which those two things alone are going to really drive up the base price if those things are actual standard equipment, which is crazy. It is nice though. I mean, a lot of other companies make you go up to a top trim to get that, so to be able to get that on base trims is really nice. Other additions here are a tiny little shifter that first debuted here in the GTI, you can see there. And there's a bunch of ambient lighting, including a little bit on the dashboard there that illuminates through the wood trim, which is a cool touch. And you can even get a head-up display now, along with quilted seats, a leatherette dash, and center console as well if you want. All Atlases now also get standard lane centering, adaptive cruise control, and blind spot monitoring, in addition to the other usual safety tech. The last big change is the powertrain here though. The VR6 is no longer offered. That means the end of the VR6 in America now, which is also a notable thing. But the only engine you can get now is a stronger version of the 2-liter Turbo 4 that's used as used to be in the base model. And so in this version it does 269 horsepower, which is 34 more than before, and 273 pound-feet of torque, which is 15 more than before. And now it gives it more torque than the old V6, even if the horsepower is still a little bit below that old motor. Volkswagen claims it'll drop the 0 to 60 time by about a half a second, which should put it somewhere in the mid-6s now. They also say it'll do better fuel economy as well. It still uses the same 8-speed automatic, and it can still tow 5,000 pounds. And there's no pricing for these yet, but with all the luxurious standard features, I'd expect the base prices to go up by a good bit. And so they'll begin arriving at dealers here in the third quarter of this year. And as a brief aside here, Volkswagen in Chicago also told some reporters that after they finish with the electric SUV portfolio and switching everything over, which will still take a few years, but after that they're still looking into doing a truck. So there's been talks. I feel like I just reported not even a few months ago about how Volkswagen was saying they wouldn't be doing a truck. It was something that they were looking into, but they probably weren't doing it. So I don't know. But anyway, so it's been back and forth for years. And anyway, Volkswagen Senior Vice President of Product Marketing and Strategy claimed that after the electric SUVs, the next request I think charged onto the board is, of course, we want a pickup truck. Please talk. Let's get it. Let's get a pencil into it, man. Was their quote. So interesting quote there. But so they want to do it. And Volkswagen CEO of the America region added that it would not be combustion, but then clarified that a plug-in hybrid could be a possibility. But it seems like it'd be electric, and that would make sense. I mean, all Volkswagens going forward are going to be electric. It's going to be fully electric, you know. So if they're doing something that's not going to be showing up for a few years anyway, I assumed it would be electric regardless. But they needed to clarify it's not going to be anything gas powered. And they also said it won't be related to the new Scout brand that's coming as well, which will be kind of like a Jeep Gladiator and Wrangler competitor. And so it's not going to be anything like that either. So this will be a separate Volkswagen thing if they do decide to do a truck. They also said though that they don't even know what segment they want to compete in yet. And American CEO here of Volkswagen said, so obviously we need to leverage existing platforms within Volkswagen. Having said that, we're going to be looking at all options. And they also said you have the Atlas platform, we have the Taos platform, you have other platforms that have not launched yet. So the important thing is that the vehicle is developed in the region for the region. So it cannot be a development from Europe or Asia and brought here. They need to be done with clinics in the US. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening. Again, do not hold your breath for a Volkswagen truck because it seems like this is an on-again, off-again thing that probably will never happen. I don't know. We'll see. But there are some fun possibilities, though, if we're going to float this idea. I mean, the obvious, easy thing is they did show concepts in the past of, like, essentially a Volkswagen Atlas truck. But if we're talking about electric stuff and next-generation stuff, they could do a bunch of different things. They could even take, one of the smaller ID models and turn it into a new ID Rabbit, pickup truck or something could be fun. Also, historically, Volkswagen has done a truck version of the bus, and so they could take, our nice long wheelbase, Volkswagen bus that's coming here, the ID Buzz, and hack off, do a two-door version and just the two-seater one. And then also you could do, a crew cab version of some sort. And then just put a truck bed on the back of the bus. I think that would be a fun, retro thing. Again, sticking to history and, this, retro futuristic kind of thing we're doing with the ID Buzz. Keep it going with the truck version as well. I think that would, make sense and also, keep costs down and not doing something totally unique or separate. So we'll see. But anyway, very interesting to, hear that at least they're considering it still. And I'll get back to some more interesting truck rumors and speculation here in a few minutes. But some of the other big reveals here this week is that BMW has revealed a refresh for the X5 and X6 this week for the 2024 model year. So they get new headlights, taillights, and bumpers on the outside. Inside, they get a more extensive overhaul here with the 14.9-inch touchscreen and 12.3-inch gauge cluster combo that you've seen in all the other new BMWs over the past few months, along with the new dashboard design, we've seen also as well that's needed to adapt to those large screens. It's also available with the Driving Assistant Professional package now that allows hands-free driving on certain highways. The powertrains also get some changes here, so all powertrains now get the 48-volt mild hybrid tech, and the base engine gets a huge boost in power here. So that 40i 3-liter turbo inline-6 goes from 335 horsepower to 375 horsepower now, and torque jumps by 51 pound-feet to 383 pound-feet of torque now too. And in the xDrive version, BMW says the 0 to 60 time is now just 5.2 seconds. For a base model X5, you're running basically like a 5-second flat 0 to 60. Like, that's impressive for a base model. And so the M50i trim is now called the M60i trim, which is the strangest part of this whole update because that has the same 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 and it's totally unchanged and doesn't get any boost in power, yet that's the one that gets the more impressive badging and the upgraded badge there, which is strange. And then the other powertrain that does get a big improvement is the plug-in hybrid version, and that one actually earns its higher designation, now going from the 45E to being called the xDrive 50E. And so that one goes though from 389 horsepower to 483 horsepower, 94 more horsepower, and torque goes from 443 pound-feet to 516 pound-feet of torque now. And this of course drops the 0 to 60 time by a good amount, going from a 5.3 seconds 0 to 60 to just 4.6 seconds now for the 0 to 60. That makes it almost as fast as the M60i version. So very impressive with that. And the battery is also 25% bigger now. So the electric range jumps by 10 miles extra. So now it's 40 miles total for the plug-in hybrid there, which is starting to get more impressive and actually, more usable here. Hopefully the electric motors are a little stronger as well, so you can do more driving in electric mode. A really nice improvement for the plug-in hybrid there. And with all this extra power and tech, prices have gone up but only by between $3,000 and $4,000 depending on the trim, which especially for the base model and for the plug-in hybrid is totally reasonable, especially the plug-in hybrid, only being $3 or $4 grand more for all that extra power and 10 more miles of EV range. I mean, that is honestly a really good deal, I think, as far as all that goes. And so very reasonable price increases for what you're getting there. And so they'll begin production in April. There's no info yet on the full X5M and X6M versions. That may not come till the 2025 model year here. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, very interesting to hear all that. Ford used the Chicago Auto Show here to debut a new carbon fiber wheel option here for the 2024 Mustang Dark Horse. We also got to see some unique interior touches here for the Dark Horse as well, but first I'm going to talk about the wheels here. So I really like the way they looked in person, by the way. You know, I was able to check it out in person and get up close to them. Like Ford's past carbon fiber wheels, they're made by Carbon Revolution and weigh just 20.1 pounds, which they say is 37% lighter than the standard wheels on the Dark Horse. And they're the first 5-spoke single-piece design by Ford and Carbon Revolution that they've ever done. And they also say they're going to be using a new plasma spray deposition technology to provide a thermal protection solution for carbon fiber wheels. Don't know what half of those words mean, but sounds very impressive. And Ford also says they have a blue tint to the wheels, which, seeing them in person, I didn't really see any kind of blue tinting to them. They just look like normal, black carbon fiber. But they claim there's a blue tint there as well. So that's interesting. They haven't announced pricing for these yet, but you really should brace yourself for the Dark Horse to be very expensive because, of course, the wheels aren't going to be a cheap option. I know it's like $18,500 for the carbon fiber package on the GT500. Obviously, that includes splitters and rear wing and stuff as well. So it's not going to be that expensive, but it still could be. I believe the replacement cost just for the wheels, like the cost to the dealer was like $5,000 a pop. So I mean, they potentially could still charge 15 or 20 grand just for these wheels. We'll have to see. And also they announced that they'll be able to now get a painted stripe option for the Dark Horse. It's like hand painted stripes and graphics. And that option on the GT500 is $10,000 as well. So they're really trying to prep people, I think, for the fact that we're going to see some Dark Horses that are easily going to be 70, maybe 80, over $80,000 potentially. So be prepared for that. Obviously, regular Dark Horses hopefully will be priced maybe around, GT350 pricing, what that used to be, or maybe, just a few grand more than Mach 1, which seems to be about the same these days. But expect something like that. And then if you put on these pricey options, which weren't offered on the Mach 1, for example, I mean, that's obviously going to balloon the price up. So, we'll see how many people go for that stuff. I think, it's the first high performance, version of the 7th gen Mustang. But I still struggle to see why someone would even do those options if you can just get a GT500 for the same price, basically. But anyway, interesting to hear about that. And moving on to the interior stuff here for the Dark Horse. It gets indigo blue stitching, a suede steering wheel, a dark metallic color for the vents and knobs, blue leather and black Dynamica on the Recaro seats. And if you get the manual, you get a blue anodized and hollow titanium shift knob, which they say doesn't get as hot and warmer weather as other titanium shift knobs, thanks to it being hollow. So that'll be interesting to try out eventually as well. And if you get the automatic transmission instead, you'll get anodized silver paddle shifters on the steering wheel. And lastly, the textures for the dash and the door trim now have what they're calling a white noise texture and a carbon fiber inspired grain on the dash instead of the previous animal-based leather feels I guess they had in the past. This is going to be kind of different. And also there's a vehicle chassis number on the dashboard like we've seen on other Mustangs. The Bullet, Mach 1, all those have had that. So you'll have that here on the Dark Horse as well. And all 2024 Mustangs are still scheduled to go on sale here this summer. We still don't have any kind of pricing for those yet. That'll most likely, again, come closer to the actual launch. Lamborghini this week has revealed 2 Aventador-based one-offs. We already thought we were done with Aventador-based stuff, but one customer commissioned 2 things here in the final hour and got these done. So the coupe is called the Invencible, and the Roadster is called the Autentica, which is, I think, authentic and invincible in Spanish. But anyway, aside from the unique styling, they get the 769 horsepower version of the naturally aspirated V12. And, basically, again, it's just another reskinning of the Aventador. We've seen countless, versions of this, same kind of thing. On the inside here, it gets rid of the infotainment screen. And supposedly the essential functions that the screen used to control are now controlled through the gauge cluster, which sounds like a nightmare. I mean, I guess this person obviously doesn't care about, listening to music or, any kind of, phone integration or anything, but still, like, I feel like the screens these days do a lot of important things that you can't just, like, not have, but they found a way to do it, supposedly. So that's interesting. And so yeah, that's I think the last Aventador based stuff. It seems like we're only a few weeks away is what we've been hearing as far as when the Aventador's actual next generation replacement will be coming. So hopefully we have, something about that here, relatively soon. Usually I think it's around Geneva Motor Show time, and that's kind of when they did it back for the Aventador, however many years ago, 10 or 11 years ago. So we'll see about all that, but interesting to see those final one-offs here. Moving on to some more relatable new car news here. Chevy has revealed a refresh for the Trailblazer for the 2024 model year, and so it gets some nicely revised styling here in the front to make it look closer to the tracks, and in the back end it also gets a new bumper and taillights. Inside it also gets tech to bring it up to speed with the tracks here, now getting an 11-inch touchscreen as standard. And there's also an 8-inch digital gauge cluster that's an option too. And the powertrains are carryover, and both the 1.2 liter and 1.3 liter engines do the same power as before. And so I guess we'll have to wait till a next generation version of the Trailblazer to get it closer to the Trax' size. But I still think there's some overlap here. I mean, really the only appeal of the Trailblazer is if you want all-wheel drive. Otherwise, the Trax, which is front-wheel drive only, unfortunately, seems to have more room. Probably going to be cheaper still, and just seems like the better buy all around. But cool. They're leaving the Trailblazer around, I guess, for those who must have all-wheel drive. But anyway, very interesting to see that. And Ram used the Chicago Auto Show here to announce some more details about the electric Ram. And they announced that it will be, in fact, called the Ram 1500 Rev, REV, that's it. And production will start next year, they say. And they also say we'll be getting more info on it during the Super Bowl. So look out for a Ram, a Rev commercial, I guess, during the Super Bowl. And they also added that the reveal of the production version will happen in the coming months. So coming, very shortly here. And they say that we are confident the Ram 1500 Rev will push past the competition, offering what will be the leading combination of attributes customers care about the most: range, payload, towing, and charge time. So sounds promising, and I'm looking forward to seeing how much of that awesome concept translates to an actual production truck. And for the last news here from Chicago, Jeep revealed the anniversary edition of the Wrangler Rubicon, which celebrates 20 years of the Rubicon package. It's available only on the 4xe and the 392 versions, and includes a unique grille with a grille guard, badges, of course, KO2 tires, and a few other things that are usually optional. On the 4xe, you also get a half-inch suspension lift and 33-inch tires, but on the 392 version, it's bundled with the Extreme Recon package for a 2-inch lift and 35-inch tires. Prices for those two start at $71,380 for the 4xe and $92,690 for the 392, and it's only available with those two setups. You can't get it with the regular V6 or the regular 2-liter turbo 4. That package does make it a few grand higher than a comparable non-anniversary edition of that same stuff, and but if those prices aren't high enough for you for a Wrangler, already approaching 100 grand for the 392, there's also a 20th anniversary level 2 package that American Expedition Vehicles is offering in partnership with Jeep. So it adds 37-inch tires, a 2.5-inch lift, and a bunch of other stuff to improve the off-road capability. And the add-ons cost an extra $23,000 on the 4xe and just over $21,000 on the 392, meaning a 392 AEV package will have a starting price of almost $114,000. I don't know who buys these. I mean, I guess you can bundle it into your financing, and that's the appeal versus just doing some of this stuff aftermarket, but I mean, I don't know. There can't be a huge market for people that are dumping, over 6 figures into their Wrangler, even with aftermarket stuff. So I don't know who that's for. Apparently that one's gonna be very limited production, but still, oh man, that's a lot for a Wrangler. But anyway, let me know what you think about that one in the comments below. Ford has teased a different kind of insanity this week. They showed off an EV performance demonstrator version of the F-150 Lightning that'll likely take the crazy 7-motor, 1,400 horsepower powertrain from the Mach-E 1400 and give this non-production Lightning the ability to do all kinds of insane, showboating and make for lots of viral videos, I'm sure, and crazy drifts and stuff. So stay tuned for that at some point soon, but cool to see them tease that. And there's another interesting rumor here about another F-150 base model model that might come to production, actually. So Ford Authority says that they have anonymous sources that claim that Ford is considering making a more off-road focused version of the Expedition. And the website goes on to speculate that an Expedition Raptor could be what they're talking about here, potentially. And so, first off, Expedition Raptor sounds like the next installment in the Jurassic Park series. But beyond that, the anonymous sources didn't really give any specifics. But, if there's decent demand for this and they think they could actually sell a decent amount of these things, 100%, I mean, that would be an easy money printer. Because, I mean, the Expedition is F-150 based. So I would assume that most of the F-150 Raptor stuff should bolt into an Expedition fairly easily. Obviously, you have to modify the fenders and stuff, so it's going to have unique bodywork, but I feel like everything else should, pretty much bolt up. I'm not an expert on Expedition, so I don't know, but, now that the idea is out there, I almost wonder why Ford hasn't done this already. They've Raptored all the things, basically. They're planning on doing the Ranger Raptor, finally here in the States. And all the other, larger stuff, basically now with the Bronco and the F-150 has Raptor versions. I don't know why they haven't done an Expedition Raptor already. So this would certainly make a lot of sense. Expect all the same F-150 Raptor stuff to carry over if this does in fact happen. And yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. I think they're probably going to also monitor and see how the Timberline sales do, because that was kind of like, a baby step into the off-roadable, Expedition. And I guess if they see some strong demand there for that, and people that buy those saying they want to do more and have more than, the capability that the Timberline offers, then here you go. Bolt in the F-150 Raptor stuff, call it a day. So seems like a no-brainer, and, makes a lot of sense there. But, just a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt until we hear anything official. For another interesting truck rumor here, though, The Drive spoke with Mitsubishi's director of product planning, who revealed to them that they're considering a new truck for the U.S. market, and that it's another one of those things we want to try to figure out, referring about how to make a truck for the U.S. Without the 25% chicken tax penalty that's, requires all trucks to be built in North America. Otherwise, they get taxed 25% and just basically blocks anyone from actually bringing a truck here for a decent price. So the easy approach here obviously would be to restyle the Nissan Frontier. They have that alliance with Nissan. They can take any of the things from Nissan, I'm pretty sure, that they want, and, make their own versions. So, that could be something that certainly, is possible, I guess. But the product planner here from Mitsubishi seems to be more interested in something smaller. And he was saying here, he has a quote that says, "The Ford Ranger, the old Ranger, that was much smaller, had so much volume, and was around so long." And I mentioned how the Maverick now kind of, fills that gap, and that they, have taken note of other trucks' popularity in their own, product planning discussions. And so the Drive suggests in their article that they could just repurpose the Rogue platform for a Maverick and a Santa Cruz competitor, which does make a lot of sense. And they've already kind of done the legwork for a lot of that by, repurposing the Rogue platform for the Outlander. So, it goes to say you could just probably take the Outlander, hack the back end off, and make some kind of Santa Cruz competitor, but that'd be way bigger than a Maverick. So, if the product planner here seems to really be an admirer of, small little Ford trucks, I think that would be too big, what the Drive suggesting. I think if they actually want to, commit and do something truly small and cheap, you're going to have to, maybe if there's like a next generation Nissan Kicks, they could, base it on something like that. Or if they're working on a next generation Outlander Sport, maybe that would be small enough. But I think the key here is small, tiny. Like even, I talked about last week how Chevy is currently doing a clinic and showing some people a small little two-door, tiny little car-based kind of truck thing to see what the people, how people react to that. And so I don't know. I feel like, even a Rogue-based thing is going to be too big unless they just really shrink down the Rogue stuff somehow. But anyway, interesting to think about, and, we'll see if Mitsubishi can manage to make something happen. I don't know why Mitsubishi has already expanded their lineup with just like putting Mitsubishi badges on every Nissan product out there. I'm sure there's some limitations to the partnership, but they did a great job converting the Rogue over to the Outlander with that having all the same underpinnings and stuff. But I think the Outlander seems to be a little bit nicer. I feel like they could do the same thing with everything else in the Nissan lineup if they were allowed to, and that goes for the trucks as well. Start with the Frontier, see how that does, and then, move on to something more creative if, everything else does well. But anyway, we'll have to see. It's always fun pretending to be an armchair, product planner here and talking about this stuff. But anyway, very cool that they were open about, revealing what they are considering behind the doors at Mitsubishi. And for some other Mitsubishi and Nissan partnership news here, they've actually renewed their alliance here with Renault and also restructured it here this past week so that each company now has an equal 15% stake in each other. And so that'll hopefully avoid the drama that was created previously whenever Renault owned 43% roughly of Nissan. I think there was a power imbalance there that kind of caused some problems. So now everyone's on equal footing. They all have 15% of each other. And there's, no power struggles there, hopefully. So both companies call it a new era. And along with this, Nissan is planning to invest up to a 15% stake in Ampere, which is Renault's electric vehicle division. And, they're really talking about how they need to, get everything electrified here. And partnering up is going to really help that. And Mitsubishi also, by the way, is still along for this ride. They're included in the deal with all this. And so, we'll see, what Mitsubishi does. So, I mean, they could even do one better. If Mitsubishi doesn't want to take a bunch of Nissan stuff, take a bunch of Renault stuff, finally bring it here to the States and have some really attractive looking vehicles, or just bring the whole Renault brand here. I think it'd be awesome to see Renault come back. But anyway, we'll see about all that. And hopefully all this, partnerships lead to, greater innovation and, more cost savings and better products somehow, for all three brands. But interesting to hear that. And the last little bit of news this week is also about Nissan here. So, Nissan's Senior Vice President for Research and Development in Europe recently told Autocar that they're well positioned to launch a pilot production of their solid-state batteries in 2025, so just 2 years away here, and that they are hoping to have them ready for mass production by 2028. And in addition to that, though, they said that we think we have something quite special and are in a group leading the technology. We want to get the cost down compared to lithium-ion batteries by 50%, to double the energy density and to offer 3 times the charging speed. And all those things from what we've seen from other companies that are also working on solid state. Toyota's working on solid state batteries and several others. And it sounds like that's kind of the whole appeal of the solid state thing, is it is like massively better and would really be the next generation of battery tech that really is needed for real strong mass adoption and eliminating some of those hurdles for people. And so if they could actually make this happen, not only would it make the cars more affordable, but you could take it both ways. You could either have double the range and have the cars stay the same price, or you could cut the battery in half, but if you still have, double the range, then you have, basically the same range you have currently for people who can live with 200 to 300 miles of range, but you have it for half the price for that battery pack there. So that drops the price, by a good amount there. And also if these batteries are, more energy dense, then that means less of the rare minerals are required and just all kinds of good stuff all around. And so, that's all just really promising and exciting. And this is, the kind of innovations that we've been waiting for and, hoping for. And clearly it's still a few years out, but it sounds like Nissan seems pretty confident that they got, like they said, they have something special here, they believe. And that's pretty awesome and exciting to hear. And also, with these smaller batteries, you're going to have less weight. So you're going to have less of a weight penalty for EVs, which will open the door to more sports cars that actually have, better handling because they'll be lighter. And even I know like Pagani said they would never do an electric vehicle because of the weight penalty. But if you don't have that weight penalty with the solid state stuff, then you open the door to, exciting, hypercars and stuff as well that'll be open to using this tech too. And then, going on to the other parts here where he's, saying, the range and, that being better, but also if, infrastructure can actually improve, which is the big if, but if it can actually support, these triple charge speeds that, they're talking about here for the solid state stuff, that could potentially drop, if you're talking about like right now, the best stuff out there does like a 10 to 80% charge, I believe in about 18 minutes for like the Taycan and then the Hyundais and Kias and stuff. So if you're talking 18 minutes and you triple that, then you're talking, you're basically talking about triple the speed would be 6 minutes for a full charge, at least from 10 to 80% or whatever. And then if that basically makes it equal to a gas-powered vehicle, essentially, again, if and when the infrastructure gets to that point where you have plentiful chargers that are reliable, then they're all doing those insane speeds, which, I mean, it's still even hard to find, some of the top, 350 kilowatt chargers out there. And so there's a long way to go as far as that goes. But at least if the cars are ready and able to accept it, then it's just a matter of, getting the infrastructure up to speed there, and that'll really help, I think, kind of get us to, you know, where we need to be as far as the electric stuff eventually. And that's, again, just, it all comes down to a lot of ifs and a lot of hurdles still that need to be cleared, but I think it's really shaping up to be a very promising future here for these electric vehicles. And hopefully also, if, you know, Nissan's, you know, one of the leading groups here that are, you know, working on these, hopefully that really helps Nissan to set themselves apart and elevate themselves beyond some other competitors, because I think Nissan really needs a win right now. And so, you know, if they can be one of the pioneers in some of this newest battery tech, I think that'll really help them as well. So wishing them all the best, and hopefully that does all work out for them. But lastly, I want to thank all of you who are members of the Matt Moran Motoring Club. So we did have one new member join this week, so I want to give a big thank you to Double Strike Photo for becoming a member. I hope you're enjoying the perks so far, and I really appreciate the support. And for anyone else who would like to join, there's always going to be a link in the description, as well as join buttons here on the video page and on the channel page. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Please also make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe to keep these videos coming and help the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.